Will the ring entities prove to be a threat in the future? What's the deal with Cara's resurrected brother? Here are the biggest unanswered questions from Season 6 of The Expanse. Admiral Duarte is first mentioned in the final episode of Season 5, when Admiral Sauveterre congratulates Marco on behalf of Duarte and informs him that the Laconia system is now under their control. For book readers, this is a tantalizing morsel, as Duarte is the villain of the 7th and 8th Expanse novels. Although that story takes place 30 years in the future in the books, the show indicates Duarte has already started down whatever path he plans to take. Duarte is one of the leaders of the rogue Martian faction that exchanges the Martians' advanced weapon technology with Marco for a sample of the proto-molecule and the proto-molecule expert, Dr. Paulo Cortazar. His choice to settle on Laconia appears to be strategic, as at the end of Season 5, an alien spacecraft is seen hovering above the planet. When Duarte finally appears in the 4th episode of Season 6, he is interrupted at a funeral by Cortazar, who arrives to inform him that he's made contact with a dormant alien craft, presumably by using the proto-molecule. In the series finale, Duarte is shown looking up at the craft, and then later in the episode he brushes off Marco, informing him,
"You were a useful distraction, but I have gods to kill."
While it's not clear what this means, Duarte seems to have big plans that involve using the proto-molecule to gain power over alien technology. Throughout Season 6, the story of young Laconia girl Cara gets more attention than that of Admiral Duarte. From the first episode, it's clear that Cara spends a great deal of her time with the native wildlife of Laconia and seems to know all the species. Yet on a trip to the forest, she discovers a new animal tentatively looking at her, which she labels a dog. When one of the birds she knows gets sick and dies, the Laconian dog resurrects it, and Cara is elated to have it back.
You fixed her! You fixed her! You fixed things!
Shortly afterward, her younger brother Zan dies after being hit by a car. Not wanting to lose her brother, Cara takes Zan's body to the Laconian dogs in the forest, and after he's been resurrected, brings him back home. Instead of being happy to see their son alive, however, Cara's parents are terrified. Cara's father even brandishes a knife against Zan, but a gash he inflicts on Zan's hand heals almost immediately. Realizing the adults could take him away again, Cara escapes into the forest with Zan. There, the show depicts the world from Zan's point of view, a perspective filtered through the blue lens of the proto-molecule. Like others who have been infected by the proto-molecule, Zan retains some of his own memories, but he's not entirely himself either. And that means he is probably exceedingly dangerous to everyone on Laconia, starting with Cara. In Season 6, Holden learns that some ships went missing while passing through the ring gate.
It's like a hole suddenly opens in the floor, and if someone falls in, they're gone.
Holden suspects this is the work of angry alien entities within the ring that may be waking up because of the humans now slipping through. To Holden, this is a bigger problem than even the war between the inner planets and Marco. Not only does it mean that some ships are vanishing without a trace, but it also means the whole system could incur the wrath of the aliens that eradicated the proto-molecule's creators. Holden's initial impulse is to tell everyone about the problem, including Marco. But it turns out to be a good thing that he doesn't. In the final battle with Marco, Naomi and the crew of the reunite use this knowledge to their advantage. Notably, Marco manages to defeat the Inners and is on the verge of victory. But as he approaches the ring, the Roci pushes anything they can through it in order to reach the energy threshold that will trigger the ring entities. Ultimately, Marco and his ship dematerialize as they pass through the ring, ending the humans' war. However, as Holden observes, this could also wake the ring entities permanently. While things seem quiet in the immediate aftermath of the battle, could the entities already be awake? Or will something else trigger them, leading to even more problems than Marco? In the last few moments of the series finale, it's revealed that Filip doesn't perish on the Pella with his father Marco, as his mother Naomi Nagata believes. Instead, he takes a ship and leaves the Free Navy before the Pella gets to the ring. In Season 5, Filip reunites with Naomi for the first time since he was a toddler, and although Naomi tries to rescue him from Marco's toxic influence, Filip ultimately rejects Naomi in favor of the father who has always been there for him.
Everything my father told me about you is true.
Don't go, Filip, please!
Even though she mourned the loss of her son, Naomi seems to have made her peace with her choice not to sacrifice herself for motherhood. On the other hand, meeting Naomi leaves Filip remarkably conflicted. In the season's early episodes, this causes Filip to act out and rebel against his father. Later, he starts to realize that Marco lies and manipulates people, including him, to get them to do what he wants. By the time the final battle arrives, Filip has grown so disenchanted with Marco that he finally breaks free from his father and even decides to take his mother's last name. This leads to the inevitable question of whether mother and son will ever reunite. Will Filip search for Naomi, or will he keep his distance, making his way in the universe on his own? While Filip ends a series by rejecting his father, that doesn't mean Marco's influence doesn't loom large. After all, he spent his entire childhood as a member of Marco's Free Navy, surrounded by people who believed in the Belter cause and Marco's violent tactics. In fact, in the 6th season's 4th episode, he loudly proclaims his loyalty after Kamina Drummer, a fellow Belter, transmits a message announcing she's reclaimed supplies Marco took from non-Free Navy Belters. In response, Filip brands Drummer an enemy and claims the Free Navy must pursue their adversaries without remorse or fear.
This is war, and it won't be over until we are dead or victorious.
Filip is still young and torn between the beliefs of his father and his mother. While his desertion of the Free Navy indicates he's embraced his mother's more nuanced and peaceful way of thinking, old habits die hard. So although it seems that the system may be entering a time of relative peace, Filip could still be swayed to join another fraught cause. And if he does, which way will he go? Will he look for unity and common ground like his mother, or will he follow in his father's footsteps and become a violent authoritarian? Holden and the crew are all back on the Roci, including Bobby Draper, the ship's new pilot. While they're enjoying a period of relative quiet, they still have to decide on their next move. And it goes without saying that the Roci always manages to become involved in universe-shattering events. When Holden and Naomi speak at the end of the episode, Holden mentions they could become security for freighters passing through the ring or consultants on one of the ring colonies. But he also brings up the fact that they still haven't tracked down the missing proto-molecule sample stolen from Fred Johnson in the 5th season. This is a sample that Admiral Duarte possesses on Laconia. And while Holden doesn't know this, his concerns about what happened to the sample likely loom large in his mind. So while the Roci crew has a number of options, it seems like sooner or later, Holden will want to pursue the proto-molecule again. This would undoubtedly put him on a collision course with Duarte and whatever he's doing with the alien technology on Laconia. Although Holden spent less time dealing with the proto-molecule over the last 2 seasons of The Expanse, it seems like this plotline could have become a major part of his and the Roci's story once again had the show continued. Perhaps it will sometime in the future. One of the outcomes of the war with Marco is that the Belters gain a seat at the negotiating table. But that doesn't mean everyone is happy to have them in a position equal to Earth and Mars. Holden uses the negotiations to maneuver Drummer into the position of president of the newly formed Transport Union, the independent organization installed to oversee transit through the ring. As he observes in the series finale, this upsets quite a few people.
You duplicitous little
was the only way.
The Belters have historically been oppressed by the inner planets, and despite recent progress, a lot of prejudice and suspicion still exists between Earth, Mars, and the Belt. So the question becomes, will the Inners continue to share power with the Belters, especially when the Belters now control the Transport Union? Over the course of the show, Christiana Vassarala, the current UN Secretary General, has not only learned to see the value in working together with others toward common goals, but she's also developed a much softer stance toward Belters. However, Earth's next leader may not share this position, especially given that Marco, a Belter, devastates the planet. Of course, both Earth's and Mars's forces are greatly depleted, so it would be a challenge for them to take on the Belt now even if they wanted to. It's hard to say what could happen in the future. Amos Burton brings Clarissa Mao, Holden's one-time wannabe assassin, on board the Rocinante at the end of Season 5. In Season 6, Clarissa does her best to redeem herself for her indiscretions, and eventually wins over Holden and Naomi and becomes an accepted member of the crew. Yet Clarissa has been having health problems ever since she used the augmentations implanted in her body early in the season. So when she once again feels sick during the series finale, she checks her health in the medical bay and is diagnosed with complex endocrine collapse syndrome, a condition with no approved treatment and a life expectancy of only 5 years. Given the battle the Roci is about to engage in, perhaps it's not surprising that Clarissa doesn't mention her failing health to the crew before the fight. However, though she stays on the Roci following the conclusion of the war, it appears she continues to keep her medical condition secret. What will this mean for Clarissa moving forward? She still feels incredible remorse for the life she took in pursuit of Holden, so perhaps she feels she's getting what she deserves. But it's also possible Clarissa could find a doctor or experimental treatment that could help her to extend her life. Will she continue to suffer in silence and accept her fate, or will she decide to fight for her life? If you don't like waiting and hoping for a continuation of the series, the books are sitting on the shelves at the store, waiting to be read. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.